what do you think that Putin is trying to say to Zelensky and to President Trump and Europe in bombing these civilian areas?
Well, look, I think Putin. The only thing he understands is force. He's a bully, no doubt about that. The only thing and he's not going to stop. Right? He's not going to actually consider stopping until he sees that there is some significant force that's going to prevent him from advancing. His goal, and everyone knows this, his goal is to annex all of Ukraine and other former Soviet Eastern European satellite countries, and rebuild that. Now, what the options that we have as the United States is we can back Ukraine even more. We can provide them more of what they may need. I'm not saying that we need to give them a blank check, but I'm saying that's leverage that we currently have over Putin. Trump has kind of put the pause button on that, but he could turn that off again if Putin doesn't want to play nice. The other thing we could do, we could really focus our attention on fortifying and enforcing the sanctions that have significant loopholes in them right now that continue to allow the Russian economy to feed it the war, to sell its oil, and to continue to gain revenue into its economy. If we were to strengthen those economic sanctions, particularly on Putin and his friends and the Russian economy, that also is something that will cause Putin to maybe pause and think a little bit more.
Well, I mean, I have a few issues with us sending more American taxpayer dollars to Ukraine. There's been some
Correct.
very serious allegations leveled by people like Tucker Carlson and people who visited the region that perhaps all of the aid we're sending isn't going to their military strength. There's also the issue of, the increasing wealth and intransigency of Zelensky. He's paused elections, which he's constitutionally allowed to do in Ukraine, but it's not a good look when his country could clearly have an election that would remove him, and that seems to be what he's avoiding. And then there's the overall malaise of us running $2 trillion annual deficits, $36 trillion in debt that we're just paying interest on, but we've sent $250 billion to Ukraine for a war they can't win. And the Europeans, who are their direct neighbors, have not contributed even close to the amount that we have for that effort. We're 79% of NATO. Americans are exhausted by this constant warmongering. And President Trump expressed last week, he said we could walk away from this, which would mean that Ukraine would rejoin Russia in some shape or form, half of it or all of it. I don't actually think, based on the statements that Putin's made, that he wants to reconstitute the USSR. They don't have the military wherewithal left after 3 years of war in Ukraine to do that. They're actually conscripting soldiers from 49 different countries to keep this war effort going, to add 149,000 additional troops. So I feel like President Trump has his finger on the pulse of what the American people want. And I certainly don't want to see Ukraine rejoin Russia as a satellite state, but we have had 4 years of President Biden's improper leadership here that have led us to a place where President Trump's cards may be strong, but they're not as strong as they could have been.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.